Hi, I'm reasonably confident that we're back on track with our derivation of the 108 forms of Sam plus Garta. And we're doing this by adhering quite closely to Bhațțoji's original commentary, which I've provided for you along with the translation by Vasu in the on my homepage. So we're going to begin where we left off, which was with two forms, sanskarta and sanskarta, um, one with anunasika and the other with anuswara. And as you may recall, our dilemma was that's all fine, but we need also to have versions of both of these with just one kara, because that's what most of the, well, I think most of the words, the important words that we really want have. So we have to have that. And we also have to have the anuswara for those. So this is exactly, if you look at Bhațțoji's commentary, which comes under Visarjaniyasya Saha, that's just because of the flow of his discussion. But what it's really regarding at this point is Samahasuti. And where we left off was exactly this. And this is exactly what Bhațțoji says at the point which is relevant to us. He says, he starts with the two forms we have, sanskarta and sanskarta. I've already apologized enough for my anuswara. And then he has this interesting or crucial tidbit, which is a quotation from Mahābhāshya. And for whatever reason, I more or less overlooked or not, didn't really know what to make of it the first time around because I wasn't thinking, I hadn't focused on the need to get rid of that pesky second skara very much at all to start with. So this is what he says next. He starts with sanskarta in the two forms, anunasika and anuswara, and then he says, samova lopameke iti bhashyam. Samova lopameke iti bhashyam. Now, since he's Bhațțoji, I guess he gets to refer to Mahābhāshya as bhashyam. And what he's saying here is that there is the optional deletion of kara following some. So there's the optional deletion of kara following some. And that's great because that's really exactly what we need. Now, once I realized that this actually was important, when I had failed with my Charochari Savarne little adventure, I thought, well, probably be a good idea to actually look at Mahābhāshya, and this is what I is in the next bit, and I've included a picture of that also on the homepage. Samova lopam eka. Now, that's how it appears in Kilhorn's manuscript. It may well be meaning to say lopam eke, but I'm not going to get into that. Ichanti. So, samova lopam eke ichanti. And then he gives the two forms that we're looking for, sanskarta and sanskarta with one skara. So it does indeed look very much as though that's exactly what Patañjali is saying. In fact, it is. So that's great news. There are a couple little questions I have, but the first one you might, if you think about it, you might realize kind of quickly, well, that's great. We started with some skarta plus some plus skarta, but that's not where we are now. Now we are sanskarta, two S's, sans plus skarta, and there really isn't any sum in sight. And what are we going to do about that? Because we can't uh, delete the we can't delete the s, the extra s at the very beginning when we had some plus skarta, because then we wouldn't have sut, and then we wouldn't have ru, and then we wouldn't have visarga or skara. Um, so that doesn't really work. So how can we get out of this dilemma? And that's kind of fun. I assume this is legit. As I've said many times, whether you caught it or not, I have never thought of myself. I am not a scholar of the grammar. I am a student, a 50-year student, but still definitely a student, and I always will be. So these are my explorations, and I'm hoping that at some point, if not now, they will be of some interest to somebody. So that's our dilemma. So how do we rectify that, or how do we adjust for that? Well, way back in the day, we discussed a sutra, um, 156, 49 in Siddhanta Comedy, and number 28 of our videos. Um, Stani vadadesho nal vidao, stani vadadesho nal vidao, stani vadadesho nal vidao. An adesha, a substitute, shall be stanivat, like the one being replaced, like the stanin, stanivat. An alvidao is a little bit of a wrinkle, which I'm going to dodge because I've never completely understood exactly how it applies. There are examples which make it clear in some examples, but uh, we'll touch on that. So, stanivadadesho nalvidao, a desha should be like its stanin, the one it's replacing. Well, so what good does that do us? Well, this is where we have to go back to our genealogy of sanskarta with the two S's, because we're going to do it backwards. Um, oh, okay, no, we won't do it backwards. We'll do it frontwards. So, as you recall, this all started way back when with Samahasuti, Samahasuti 835, 135 in Siddhanta Comedy, Samahasuti, which enjoins replacement of this of some by ru. So we had sar skarta, and then by the two previous sutra, Atrananaska purvasya tuva anunasikat paronuswaraha, we then have two variations of sar skarta, one with anuswara and one with anunasika. So here's where the fun starts. This is the first adesha, and the adesha ru should be stanivat. It should be like some. So ru is still also, ru is ru, but it's also still some. Then we keep going down the chain. So we had sarskarta in the two forms. Then we had 8315 Karavasana Yodavasarjaniyaha, which replaced the ru by visarga. So we had sangha skarta and sangha skarta, the two forms with visarga instead of ru. Now the visarga is ru and the ru is so the visarga is still Then we had sampum kanam sovaktavyaha. No, then we had visarjaniyasya saha, and that replaced the visarga with sikara. Now the sikara is still Visarga, which is still Ru, which is still of some. Then we had a couple of sutras that just confirmed that it was going to be in place of the Visarga. And so at that point, we had Sanskarta and Sanskarta, what we started out with today, the two sakaras where we only want one. And that is how I plan to claim that the the first sakara here is still of some, so that what Bhațțoji and Patanjali both agree on, that some is being followed by a sakara, and that sakara, which started out as sut, is going to be dropped. And that way we end up with exactly what we want. We end up with four forms, two with two sakaras and one with one sakara, and they fall into either anunasika or anuswara.